expert at making things look nice. I'm really good at writing the words, but if you see our newsletters, I usually write them and then Aaron makes them look good. So this will be reflected in this PowerPoint. But anyway, so just wanted to share a little bit about our ministry, and again, just give you all a big thanks for supporting us over the last couple of years. I'll talk about this in the what we've learned, but just the importance of having our church behind us was so big, especially in some of those maybe more discouraging moments. It just always felt like the church was behind us, and we had people that we knew if we sent out a newsletter, they would send an email in response saying they were praying for us, and we knew a lot more people were praying for us, and that just really helped. Anyway, so it's great to be able to share a little bit about what we were up to. So this is that okay? This is a picture of Arequipa, more from out in a more rural area. This must have been during the summer, during the rainy season, because it's not normally this green, but you can see what Arequipa looks like. Oh, fancy. I don't know how well you can see this with the lights, but this is a map of where Peru is. Most people know the city of Lima, city of over 10 million people, a really big city. Arequipa is the second biggest city in Peru, down in southern Peru. So it was a city over 1 million people. A lot of people, when we told them we were going to Peru, they were thinking like live in a stone hut with a tin roof, like hanging out with the alpacas all the time or something. And we did get some of that, but yeah, we were in a big city with a lot of people around. So it wasn't quite the like out in the middle of nowhere riding alpacas everywhere or something. Here's a better picture, maybe. Again, I hope you all can see it well enough, but of what kind of Arequipa looks like from inside the city. So it's a very densely populated city. It's very common for Latin Americans to live together as larger families. So you'll have grandparents, parents, kids, maybe aunts and uncles, all kind of in the same spot. And the houses are very close together. A lot of the time you share a wall with your neighbor, or at least your walls are right next to each other. So it's really dense, a lot of brick and concrete. It's an earthquake zone, so you have to build your houses with rebar and brick and that kind of thing. It's built really well, but that's kind of what Arequipa looks like. So New Hope Peru was the place that we were working at. It's a children's home in Arequipa, and it was started by a couple of missionaries, David and Debbie Bolos. They went down in the early 90s, and their plan was to get involved in church planting and sharing the gospel. They were good Baptist missionaries. But as they were doing this, they planted a church, but they started noticing that there were a lot of orphaned and abandoned children on the streets, and they started to say, hey, this is something that we can do something about. So they started just taking kids into their house, and they kept getting more and more. This is a picture of the original New Hope building. So it was just a 2-story building. They started taking in more and more kids, and then quickly outgrew that. And this is what it looks like now. They bought a big plot of land. This was just basically dust. Arequipa is a desert, essentially, so it was a big plot of dust. But now there's the entrance to New Hope. When you walk in, that's what you see, a green area. There's one of the buildings with some of the places where the kids stay in, and then the offices. There's the chapel at New Hope, and the most important place, there's the soccer field, the football field. You have to have one of those, and that gets a lot of good use out of it in Peru. So the mission of New Hope Peru, these pictures, that down there is just all the staff at New Hope, and then up there some of the kids. And again, I think I thought that the screen was bigger or something, so sorry that the pictures are going to be really small. But anyway, so the mission of New Hope Peru is to serve orphaned, abandoned, and at-risk children of Peru, to demonstrate the love of Christ in our actions and manner of work. So we really love this as an unapologetically Christian children's home. We very much try to be directed and led by Christ. We are all Christians, and we try to give a Christian worldview to the kids as well. So unapologetically Christian. and to provide physical, emotional, and spiritual care for the children entrusted to us. And all three of those we see as really important. So physical care, of course, providing food and clothing. They go to local schools in the area. But then also emotional care, especially for these kids who have all gone through varying levels of trauma in their life. So providing that emotional care and connection. And then again, spiritual care again. We're unapologetically Christian. We want to share the gospel with these kids. And that was why Aaron and I chose to go down to New Hope, Peru, is because we thought that they were doing that well. So New Hope is an orphanage, so it has a residential care program. But especially over the last few years, they've been switching more and more to family-based solutions. And the idea here is that Scripture, but also modern research and science, just as a side note, it's amazing how modern science so often shows what Scripture already told us to be true. But that's just a side note. Scripture has always shown the importance of the family, and science is also showing this. So the idea there is to get as close as possible to a family-based solutions. So again, it's an orphanage. So with the residential care, those are what you think of, kids who either both of their parents have died, or actually for a majority of orphans in the world, it's just that their parents can no longer take care of them for one reason or another. So the kids end up at New Hope, and then they're placed in casitas. This just means little house, like casa, casita. And this is where 3 to 5 kids will live with a house parent that they call a tutora, like a tutor. And they do everything together as their casita. So they eat meals together, they work on homework together, they go to school together. And again, the idea is it's a family atmosphere. So it's not just you go to the big cafeteria and everyone's eating together in an institution. You're trying to have this family-based atmosphere. And then each kid also has an individual care plan. So a care plan taking into account their past experiences, how New Hope can care for them now. And then the ideal, if possible, is that they can go back with family, either parents if that works out, extended family if that doesn't, and if that doesn't work, then in adoption. But there's an individual care plan for all of the kids there. So that's the residential care program. And just this alone, we think that New Hope is doing a great job. They're just a great residential care program. But they've also started to notice that there's some other things that they need to help kids with. So one of those is the alumni program. So in Peru, like in the United States, once you turn 18, you're a legal adult and you're no longer the responsibility of the government. So this happens in the foster care system here in the US. It happens in Peru, where you can no longer stay at the children's home once you turn 18. And I don't know about you, but when I was 18, I was not mature enough to be on my own without any support. And this is especially true for kids who have had these traumatic experiences, who have grown up in an institution. They're just not ready to go on their own when they're 18. So New Hope provides support in various ways. This picture is a guy, we'll call him Miguel. I won't use any real names of the kids in this presentation just for safety, but his name is Miguel. He came to New Hope in just really, really difficult circumstances some 10 years ago. Him and his family had gone through some really difficult abuse, and New Hope has just worked with him over the years. He's gotten a lot more mature, he's grown a lot, but he still just wasn't ready to be on his own as an 18-year-old. So he was able to stay in a different room at the children's home at New Hope for a few months. Now New Hope has helped him out by renting an apartment for him, so he has a place to stay. They've helped him with advice, helped him find a job. It's looking like he's planning to go to school as well, so they'll help with some of the tuition for school. So just kind of walking along and giving that support. Again, that support that you would have in a family. So my parents helped me. I had a place to stay when I was home from college. They gave me advice. For that matter, Aaron, Kezia, and I will still be staying with my parents. So I'm 29, but it's okay. Anyway, but that's the kind of things that parents can do. Yeah, we don't want our kids to stay with us forever, but when there's a necessity, you can provide that care. So New Hope is trying to at least fulfill some of that role. And then also, so the residential care, the alumni, and then there's also a foster care program. This is a government program. They've been working on putting in foster care. A lot of people hear foster care and they think of the U.S. system and they think the foster care system is broken. Why would you want to put in a foster care system? But we've seen from research that a foster care environment, a family environment, is better for the child than being just in a large institution. And Peru is also just starting their foster care program. Things work differently in different countries, so they can learn from some of the issues that other places have and try to put in as best of a system as possible. So again, it's a government program, but New Hope helps by doing a lot of this is one where there's a Spanish word that works better than any English word, but they do it like training type things and just sharing about how foster care works to Peru. They also help recruit families to be involved in foster care because of the Christian nature of the children's home. They work a lot through local churches, so they reach out to churches. And churches of all people should be concerned with families and for caring for vulnerable children, right? So reaching out to those churches to try to get involved. So they've helped find families, help train some of those families to be able to welcome in foster kids. You can't see it from the picture, but they started in Arequipa. Arequipa is a region and also a city inside of that region. And they were doing such good work that the government asked them to expand to 3 more regions in Peru. So they're also in the region of Cusco. You maybe have heard that from Machu Picchu, the region that has Machu Picchu. And then Moquegua and Tacna, 2 other regions of Arequipa. So they're working with some local partners there to try to continue this foster care program. So those are the main family-based things they do. They also have 2 self-sustainability businesses, and the idea here is that they can have some businesses that help bring in some of the funds that they need to run. One of them is Deli Esperanza, which doesn't have quite the same connotation in Spanish. It can just mean anything food or drink related. So they sell healthy beverages. There's this one, Chicha Morada, which is a drink made from purple corn that is really popular in Arequipa. And this one that's maracuya, which is passion fruit juice. So they sell, those are their 2 main products, sell those juices. And then they also have Hope Bakery that they've just gotten up and running. It is a bakery. They make these filled breads, so like baked breads filled with different like beef or cheese or things like that. They're really good. Golfeados, which is kind of like a cinnamon roll with shredded cheese on top. It's a Venezuelan dessert that's actually really good. And then panetones, I guess I don't have a picture. But they're these breads that are really popular around Christmas time. So they all Peruvians do panettone and hot chocolate is what they do on Christmas Eve, which makes no sense to us because it's the middle of summer and they do hot chocolate. We've learned that it's from Americans who came down and said, well, you have to have hot chocolate on Christmas. Doesn't matter. It's the middle of summer. We're having hot chocolate for Christmas. So anyway, that's where that comes from. So those are 2 of the businesses. So how did we end up at New Hope? Also apologize again if you recognize some of these slides. I've reused some of these from last year. So again, my apologies. We got back 6 days ago, so here we are. So how did we end up at New Hope? This is Tony Bolos. If you've been at Foothills for a while, like a lot of you have, you might recognize him from one of the Foothills U's a few years ago. He gave a talk on why a Christian should be a philosopher. So he has a PhD from Edinburgh, which is where he met Ryan, but he's also really involved with this children's home down in Peru. So when Aaron and I were looking at going abroad for a couple years, we sent out various feelers and we talked to Ryan. And he said, hey, I have this friend. He's really involved with a children's home down in Peru. I don't know if you want to talk to him. We're like, sure, we'll talk with him and his wife. No idea if it was going to go anywhere, and we just felt like God just kept opening doors for us to go down. His name is Tony Bolos. If that name sounds familiar, the founders of the children's home were David and Debbie Bolos, and so this is their son, and he's been the executive director down there at various points and still is really involved from the U.S. side of things. So anyway, we ended up there. What is our work? I like to divide this into our official work and our unofficial work. So our official work, for me, it was doing a lot of devotionals with the staff and kids. So New Hope starts every day with a 10 to 15 minute devotional for all of the staff. And the idea here is just to dedicate our day to God, but also to help give the staff a biblical worldview for what they believe about God, why they're doing the work that they're doing, so that they can better serve the kids in that way. So I did a lot of devotionals with the staff, did some with the kids as well. Then also just supporting Peruvians who care for the kids kind of goes with that. But Aaron and I always saw our role as coming in to assist Peruvians who are doing the work. So this children's home was started by American missionaries, but now all of the leadership in Peru is Peruvian. So we were just coming down to help them out. And then some of you might remember that my college was in finance and economics, and I worked in finance for a year before seminary, so I could help with some of the financials for the self-sustainability business. So this just felt like God was opening doors for us. They were looking for someone who could help with some financials, and I had some of that. They were looking for some help with some of the devotionals and more biblical worldview. I could help with that. So anyway, there's some pictures. That was me speaking at a Thanksgiving service. Thanksgiving's not a Peruvian holiday, but they had a Thanksgiving service anyway. That was me giving a devotional, and Aaron and Kezia are watching. That was me speaking at a staff retreat that we had. So then Aaron, she did 1,000,001 different things, but some of the things she did, she spent a lot of time with the kids, so she would help them a lot with homework, and that was really helpful for the tutoras when the 5 kids get back from school and they're all over the place, so she could come in and help with them. Also build relationships with them. That picture you can't see, but 2 of the kids took out their little kids makeup set and were doing all of Aaron's makeup and painting her nails. The result was interesting, but it was a great way to connect with the kids. So can't complain. But yeah, she looked ridiculous, and I love her so much. She also helped a lot with the almacén, which was like the food storage. So one of the local grocery stores donated a lot of food to New Hope, and they needed someone who could help track and manage all of those donations. And I bring this up. I think this is actually really important. A lot of people think that thought that when we were going down to Peru, we were just going to be doing typical missionary things that you think of, we were just going to be preaching the gospel all the time, doing activities with kids, just all 24/7 doing that kind of thing. And we definitely did those types of things. We preached the gospel. But there's also just a lot of those kind of thankless tasks that just need to be done. And part of what I love about Erin so much is that she just has that servant heart to dive in. And so they needed someone who could help with that. And so she was willing to help with that. So that actually became a big part of her role. Not the most glamorous thing again, but it was just being willing to dive in and do that. She built relationships with coworkers in that. She was able to build friendships. So again, Erin's amazing. And yeah, that was a cool thing. And then, yeah, I just put random other projects because she did so many different things. That top picture is from her translating. New Hope hosted a 3-day conference on working with kids who have gone through trauma, and they brought in a speaker who only speaks English. So the director at New Hope, Carla, asked Aaron if she would be willing to translate for this event, and Aaron said, yeah, sure, thinking Carla meant sit next to someone and translate just for them while watching someone up front. And she comes to find out, no, she's translating the whole time for the main speaker for the event. And if you have learned another language, it's much easier to translate from Spanish to English rather than from English to Spanish. So for 3 days, she was translating from English to Spanish. Her Spanish is much better than mine. She did an amazing job. And then, yeah, that's just another picture. She did a like youth group night with the kids one night. So just kind of, anyway, she did 1,000,001 things again, but those are just some of the things. Also, along with our official work, one of the big things where we could help with New Hope Peru, is that New Hope hosts a lot of groups, short-term groups who come down, usually 2 to 3 churches a year. And usually these churches don't have anyone who speaks Spanish or very little Spanish, so we would kind of be the point people on organizing the trips, working with Peruvians to figure out what the kind of projects that they would work on around the home would be. Sharing about New Hope and just kind of, babysitting them, but being their guides through their time there. So just some pictures. That was all the kids with one of their groups at a pizza and praise night. We would always do that. We would get a Little Caesars pizza, which is 1,000,000 times better in Peru. It's actually like really good pizza in Peru. So we always had to tell groups like, we're getting Little Caesars, but trust us, it's actually good. And then do some praise and worship songs, and the staff pastor would give a devotional. That was one of the groups from Canada, just standing out there. That was a group from Indiana with the staff pastor's kids. That was them on some scaffolding. The Canadian group working on some electrical. We would take them out for dinner as well in the city, so that was them, and we would invite 1 or 2 Peruvians to come and join them. And that was the Canadian group was resurfacing the volleyball court, so they had to jackhammer up all the concrete so that they could pour new concrete. So that was a long project, but anyway, that's doing some jackhammering on the court. So then our unofficial work. I like to say that we had job descriptions when we went down to Peru. I think about 30% of my work fit with what my job description was. I think about 10% of Erin's work was what her job description had been, but that's just kind of how things go. So a few unofficial things we did that ended up actually being a significant part of our work. One was we had one of the girls at New Hope stay with us for Christmas. So New Hope tried to do, they started it last year and did it this year as well, where the kids would go stay with some of the staff members for Christmas Eve and Christmas. And the idea is to give them a bit more of a natural feeling for Christmas. They're not just spending Christmas at the institution, but spend it with some staff member that they connected with. So we got to host one of the girls. You can see my daughter and Erin and me holding up my presents. And then we also, one of the other staff members was hosting 2 of the teenage boys, so they came over for a Christmas dinner with us. Another thing was camp. If you were reading our prayers, we just went to camp a couple weeks ago. That's one of the little girls with Kezia with a little inflatable pool. But that's their very common summer activity in Peru, is to go down to the ocean. It's a couple-hour drive and have a camp type thing. So I gave a couple of the devotionals, the teaching sessions at the camp, but mostly you're just going to hang out, get a break, get something different, get out of the city. So we went and did that, and everyone loved that Kezia went. They kept asking, are you guys actually going to camp? They're like, yeah, and we're bringing Kezia. Oh, no way. So that was fun. Soccer with the boys, football. I had mentioned that I did that. So that was a couple of the times where we had a bunch. They would play every Friday in the evening, and all the kids or all the teenage boys and a lot of the staff would stay and play as well. Those were kind of there's a big game every week, but I would also just play a lot with the kids just throughout the day or something. One of the teenage boys that I really connected with, he would just come up to my office and we would go and just kick around a soccer ball for 30 minutes or so. And it was great to spend time with him. It was fun for him. And then it just opened opportunities to share the gospel, to maybe give him some mentoring. We talk a lot about family. So again, I'll talk some more about this, but a lot of the kids have not had a good family. So just, I hope, one of the things I hope is that seeing Aaron and I together, and then also seeing how excited we were about a baby and interacting with a baby might encourage them that, hey, actually, you can have a healthy marriage. Yes, you can have children, and children are a blessing from God. Going back to that blessing that I was talking about, children are a blessing. Anyway, so played a lot of soccer that then was great in itself, but also opened opportunities. And then we also brought our families to show around New Hope. So that was Aaron's parents and brother. We went over to the staff pastor at New Hope, my coworker, Pastor Alvin. We went over to his house and had dinner one of those nights. That was Aaron's sister and brother-in-law showing them around the city. And that picture, actually, you can see the white guy who's like a foot taller than everyone else. That's Aaron's brother. So Peruvians are pretty short. My Spanish tutor, I like to brag about this. My Spanish tutor asked me whether I played basketball or not, and I was like, no. And she's like, well, you're so tall. You have to play basketball. Like, I have never gotten that in my life, and I will never get that again in my life. But my Peruvian Spanish tutor thought that I should play basketball, so there you have it. And then having a baby in Peru, that was something. So I love to talk about my baby, so I'm going to make you all listen to me talk about my baby. This is Kezia Esther Loken. Kezia is one of the names of one of the daughters of Job. It's actually a really popular name in Spanish, Cecia, and so we heard that name, and then we were looking in our English Bibles, and we were like, I kind of like that name, Kezia. So Kezia Esther Loken, that was when she was born. The hospital. That was when she was a little baby, hanging out with mom, hanging out with me. That was, we're formally dressed because we were going to a wedding. And weddings in Peru are hilarious. There's no RSVPs or anything. You just invite a ton of people and you don't know who's going to show up. There might be people who show up that you don't even know. So you just kind of have to plan for that. And at our church, the Sunday before the wedding, the couple would usually come up and just invite the whole church. It was a church of a few hundred people, but they would just invite the whole church. So we were like, well, okay, I guess we'll go on Saturday to this wedding. So we went to a few weddings while in Peru, which was pretty fun. But anyway, we dressed up. That's a more recent picture of her. She's a really smiley baby. That was her at a restaurant we were at when she first time sitting in a high chair, hanging out. She's adorable. I love her so much. So just, some of the joys and challenges of having a baby in Peru. First of all, the joys. Peruvians just love babies. People in the U.S., a lot of people love babies, but Peruvians take it to a whole nother level. They love babies. They were so excited when they found out Erin was pregnant. They threw us a huge baby shower with just tons of food, and just the whole staff came for that. So that was just super fun. Everyone's so excited, especially after we had the baby too. People would get so excited when they found out she was Peruvian. Be like, no, she's actually a Peruvian and Arequipeñan? Yeah, okay. So they'd get really excited about that. So that was really fun. This picture is from Kezia's infant dedication. That's our pastor, Paul. If some of you have followed our email newsletters, you know that he's had a really difficult battle with cancer. So quick update, he just finished chemotherapy. He had a PET scan a couple days ago to see how that's going. So we're hoping that the cancer is finally gone. But he has had a very difficult journey with that. And going back to that joyful church, he is just a very joyful man. He's a man of God. He's a fundamentalist Baptist. He will not compromise on doctrine, but he's just a joyful man to be around. And just a mentor, a friend, a great guy. Anyway, so he did the dedication for Kezia, which was really cool. I mean, I would have asked Ryan to do it, but it was really meaningful for us that our pastor in Colorado could do that. So sorry, Ryan. maybe next. Yeah, it was outside our budget. Some other joys. We went on vacation with her about a month ago to a place in the Andes Mountains. So there you can see just with her. That one we like to show. That's her sitting in the front seat of the van that we were in with no seat belt, just hanging out on my lap. So car seats and seat belts are just not a thing in Peru, like the driver is supposed to wear a seatbelt. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So Kezia would just hang out on her lap. You could like breastfeed in the back of a car if you wanted. So when we put her in the car seat when we got to Wisconsin, she was not happy. She cried for like 30 minutes and fell asleep finally. Anyway, so she's adjusting to car seats. But when we left the hospital, we just like carried her into the car. So that's normal. Anyway, so that's pretty fun. There's some challenges too. There's some cultural differences. Some of the doctor's appointments were difficult. Peru is a much more hierarchical culture, just in general. And one of the ways you saw that was that doctors were very much the authority and their patients did whatever the doctor said. Whereas we're a little more used to, especially nowadays, I think in the U.S., a little more like we're more responsible for our care and the doctors kind of follow our leading. So just had some challenges with that, with the pregnancy. Of course, being far away from family was really difficult with that. Peruvians, again, love babies, but they're also very opinionated about babies. So we got a lot of advice about babies. Again, I think that happens a little bit here, but it was anyone and everyone. One time I was walking through the center of Arequipa with her, and someone from the other side of the street yelled out, "Your baby is too cold. You need to put more clothes on her." Just like that kind of thing, where you're like, I don't know what to tell you. It's 70 degrees and sunny, and she's pressed up against my chest. I'm not putting more clothes on her. Anyway, so but mostly joys. It was really joyful. Okay, I swear, last slide about Kezia. I just love talking about her. It's great. So having a baby is a great thing in general. Children are a blessing from the Lord. It is a lie from the culture that children ruin your life, and I will die on that hill. Children are great. So we would have had a baby regardless. But one of the things that we were surprised about was that we think that having a baby actually really helped our ministry. So we were a lot less productive. If you think just in terms of number of devotionals that I could give, or number of financial statements I could do, or especially for Erin, amount of time she could spend at New Hope was a lot lower. But just being able to say we had a baby in Peru, feeling connected to that culture. She was also just a conversation starter. We talked to a lot more people. We felt like we had a deeper connection with Peruvians. So a lot of the time I like to say that the most important thing we did in Peru was having a baby. And I say that slightly in jest because the most important thing we did was preach the gospel. And that was the most important thing we did. But just having a baby there kind of just made people more willing to listen, more willing to talk to us, just opened up deeper relationships in a way that wouldn't have otherwise happened. And I've heard this from other missionaries as well. I saw Joe and Kelly nod their heads, but you think it's going to limit your missionary activities or your whatever, and it might in some sense make you less productive, but your impact, I think, a lot of the time is bigger. So just some pictures. That was Pastor Alvin, my coworker, and his daughter Gracia came over. That was one of the teenage girls with Erin and Kezia. Some of the girls at New Hope got to hold Kezia when she was younger. That's Flor, the cleaning lady, holding Kezia. Flor, the cleaning lady, and Panchita, one of the cooks, loved holding Kezia, so we called them Tia Florcita and Tia Panchita, like Aunt Flor and Aunt Panchita, because they were just, sometimes Flor would come up and like hold out her hands to take Kezia, and I would give her, and then Flor would just kind of leave and go and walk around New Hope, and then Erin would come back in or whatever and be like, "Where's Kezia?" I was like, "She's with Flor, it's fine." And then like 15 minutes later, Flor would come back with Kezia and like, "Here you go." Okay, great. So that was really fun. That was at lunch with Kezia and some of our coworkers. That was us outside at night with one of the tutoras and one of the girls. Those were some of our coworkers at the staff Christmas breakfast. So yeah, again, that's enough about Kezia, but she's great, and it was really fun to just see her interact with Peruvians. So just some things outside of New Hope. Vida Nueva was our church, New Life Baptist Church, and it was, just a great church. It had been planted by American missionaries but now the leadership is Peruvian. Again, our Pastor Paul, his wife Nicole is the daughter of American missionaries, and they had two great kids, Kayla and Tadeo, like Thaddeus, Tadeo. And Kayla especially loved Kezia. She would always hang out with Kezia, and when our last day at church, she was like really crying because Kezia was leaving, but it was super sweet. One of the really cool things Vida Nueva does is a global celebration every year. So it's this 5-day missions conference, and it's just amazing. They start the whole thing with a parade where the missionaries come and parade with like a flag of the country that they're in, and everyone cheers and throws confetti and air horns inside of the church, welcomes everyone up front. You can't really see it, but there's all the missionaries up front that they support. Then they have some missionaries will do house visits, and so you sign up to go to different houses and hear in a more informal setting their ministry. They do a missionary Q&A. Let's see what else. Some worship services, and then it ends on Sunday with this like great 3-hour church service all about missions. So it's a really missions-focused church. Also just good relationships. That was Thanksgiving dinner this year with some other American missionaries who all had some relation to Vida Nueva. And then Nicole is a really big hiker. So this was us hiking one of the volcanoes nearby Arequipa. So Arequipa has 3 big volcanoes nearby, El Misti, Chichani, and Pichu Pichu. And I hiked all 3 of them. They're all somewhere around like 19,000 some feet. So a mile higher than our 14ers that we have here. Vida Nueva, I also led the English Bible study there. They had an English Bible study with some native speakers, but it was more a chance for Peruvians to get to practice English as a second language. So a little over a year there, I got to lead that, which was just a great opportunity to lead a little more. We went through some Bible books. At one point, we actually went through Joe's book, Healthy Habits from Jesus. I don't know if anyone's gone through that yet, but we went through that one. We went through Joshua. We did a study on Romans. So just some different studies. And then I got to preach at Pastor Alvin's church a few weeks ago. I mentioned when the pastor invited me up, he told me I had an hour to preach. I only preached for 40 minutes, so I disappointed them, I think, with that. But that was pretty cool to be able to give a full sermon in Spanish. It just felt really like a good culmination of our time there. And these are really the slides that I made, so you can tell the quality has gone down. So what we've learned, what I have learned, a few things, many things. One of them was just caring for vulnerable children who have experienced trauma. So again, we want to share the gospel, we want to preach Jesus, and we definitely did that. But also just realizing that kids who have gone through trauma are going to react in different ways, are going to struggle to have good relationships. All of them, all the kids had either a bad earthly father or an earthly father who wasn't part of their life. So explaining what it means that God is a good father is something that we had to talk about. So just some of the importance of relationship building, of just taking a little more time, of realizing sometimes when the kids are acting out that it's not just because they're disobedient children that need some discipline, but a lot of the time it was coming from their trauma. And this word trauma gets overused, I think. I have strong opinions on this, but gets overused in our culture now. But these kids have legitimately all gone through really difficult trauma. So there's a difference between my parents made me go to church when I was younger, that's trauma, versus like I was abused as a 6-year-old. Like there's different things. Anyway. Another thing, especially from our church, was the priority of missions. And I just put, where there's a will, there's a way. And we saw this with our church. Peru is obviously a lot worse off economically than the U.S. A typical monthly salary is about 1,200 soles, so like $350 a month. But our church was sending missionaries to the other side of the globe. We made friends with some Peruvian missionaries who are now in Azerbaijan learning Turkish with, I should be careful what I say, but they're learning another language to go and preach the gospel among unreached people groups. Again, talking about those unengaged people groups that I was talking about. There's Peruvians reaching those. So we had one of the groups that came down, one of the people told me, I always thought I was going to go on a mission trip to help out the Peruvians. And then I'm coming down here and learning about how to do missions from Peruvians. And that was just amazing to see. So not a lot of money, but there was just a will for that. Perseverance. There were some difficult times for us, especially that first year. And we're just so glad that we stayed the 2 years, just because you build those relationships. I think if we had left after 1 year, it always would have been kind of a negative experience in my mind, but just being willing to stick it out. Again, we were just there for 2 years. It's not a career missionary, but that was important for us. And then one I didn't put was the importance of language learning. Just learning Spanish. I wish in those first months I dedicated more time to learning Spanish. It ended up working fine. My Spanish is pretty good, but just the importance of learning that language, of being able to read the Bible in your own language. And again, this is Spanish. It's not some new language or something, but the importance of language and the importance of support from a church. I talked about that, of the importance of knowing that Foothills was behind me, supporting me financially, yes, but even more with prayers and things like that. What's next? I know I'm out of time. I will give this really quick. Just first of all, time with family and friends. Kezia has met she's met all of her grandparents. My parents came down to Peru in July, but since we've been back, she's been able to see 3 of her 4 grandparents. That's her with Aaron's dad. That's her with Aaron's mom. She loves Aaron's mom so much. That one, she has a funny face because Jenna had just given her some grapefruit juice. She did not like that. So she has a puckered face, but she really loves Jenna. And my mom drove to Wisconsin kind of to pick me up and drive back to Minnesota. But mostly it was to see Kezia. We all know who the priority is. So that's my mom hanging out with Kezia. So yeah, we're trying to get time with friends and family here in Colorado, back in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I have my ordination council tomorrow, as Ryan has mentioned, 6 p.m. here at the church. People are invited to come. I was joking about this, that if you've always secretly disliked me, this is a great opportunity. You can just watch and come get grilled. No, I'm just kidding. Well, hopefully you don't dislike me. But anyway, that's just, it'll be meaningful, and that will work. There will be, the ordination council that will be asking me questions. Then they vote on whether to recommend ordination, and then the members of Foothills would vote on whether or not to actually ordain me. So it would be Foothills, the local church, being able to do that. So if you just wanted to see kind of my doctrine and theology and life and call to ministry and some of those, you are more than welcome to come. And then I'm searching for a pastoral role, a job as a pastor. I'm looking mainly in the Midwest, and so that's kind of up in the air. I've been talking especially with a couple churches in the Midwest, so that's kind of what's next for me. So thank you for your time. This was a picture we took when we got there in February of 2024, and then we recreated the picture with Kezia a couple of years later in front of the sign. So if you can tell, you probably not, but I lost like 15 pounds while in Peru. It's like, I didn't have 15 pounds to lose, but it's just like, everyone eats so healthy. It's all natural food. You eat a lot of food, but it's just so healthy, and you walk everywhere. But in the last few days, I've been to Arby's, Chick-fil-A, Jimmy John's. I had Pop-Tarts for breakfast yesterday, so I'm really working on getting those 15 pounds back already. But anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your support over the last couple of years. Again, this church has meant so much to us. I was baptized here, became a member here, got to know you all. You all welcomed Erin in so well when we got married. I'm still eternally grateful for how you welcomed her in and made her feel a part of the community right from when we got married. So just thank you all. Thank you to this church, and it's really good to be back. So that's I think that's it. I don't know how to get rid of that.
Taking a few questions. We have about 10 minutes.
that all right if I take some questions? Or yeah, Ralph. Mm. Uh, s- there's somewhat, and there's some challenges with it. I think it's better because of the casita system. The children go to church or to school or things like that with their casitas. It's not just like the big bus pulls up with all the children. I should have mentioned too, the kids all go to different churches around the city that we trust and have connected with and know the pastors at. There's some stigma associated with that. Um, I think also just because it's difficult economically in Peru, there is some of the kids are actually grateful for the situation that they're in. So a lot of kids in Peru um, end up having to work, and a lot of that is like they'll go around with their parents and sell stuff on the street. So the kids at New Hope don't have to do that. So sometimes there's even like, well, we're grateful that we don't have to go work after school. We don't have to go sell candy on the street or something. I think less than there maybe would be here, but there is a little bit of that, yeah. I think it's harder to, you can't just invite people over to your home as easily. It's hard to welcome people over, so there's some challenges with that. So we try to get the kids, like, especially the teenage boys, do soccer camp during the summer where they can go to a soccer, not like an overnight camp, but just like play soccer, and then they're just some of the boys. Yeah. Dave. Yeah, they've been working on some sort of a more formal mentorship program, and it's just taken a long time. Everything in Peru takes a lot longer than you think it should, which has been challenging sometimes for Aaron and I. So there isn't as much of a formal mentor program, but a lot of the times there will be individual staff who have kind of taken it upon themselves to mentor the kids. With Miguel, for example, he doesn't have a formal mentor, but there's the woman who directs that alumni program. And so she'll try to meet with him regularly. He's also over 18, so it's up to him what he wants to do. So some of that has been hard, where she's been like, hey, can we talk about your finances? And he's a little bit like, well, I don't want you part of my business. So there's some challenges with that. But yeah, the idea is, not just providing physical needs, but providing that emotional support, that wisdom from older people. We also hope that they get it from people at church. It's a little bit harder because it's just legally, it's hard for them to be able to go over to someone's house for lunch or something. There's just a process. You have to fill out forms and stuff like that. But we hope that at the churches that they're going in, that there's adults who will reach out to them, care for them, that kind of thing. This is a whole can of worms. Uh, um, Crime is especially bad in Lima. In Arequipa, the crime is just different. So we had it described to us by Tony that people will probably try to rob you, but they won't try to mug you. So they won't like attack you to steal your stuff. They'll just try to steal your stuff. And we're like, I think that's comforting. Okay. Yeah, things are a lot more locked up. People don't have yards. It's like behind gates and bars and everything like that because robbery is an issue. Yeah, and New Hope, for example, is very strict on security for reasons like that. Um, let's see, what else can I say about crime? There's just things that are just, if you're smart about things, then you really don't have to worry about things. One thing that we're told before coming down and got reiterated is just be careful about taxis. So we had apps on our phones. We didn't have a car, and taxis were cheap, so we mostly got around by taxis or the bus. We had an app on a phone that was a legitimate taxi company to call, But if you're calling a taxi off the street, sometimes you aren't sure if it's actually a real taxi or someone. So you just take precautions, like if you're alone by yourself, especially at night, especially a location you don't know, especially if you're a woman by yourself, then you just know not to call a taxi off the street. And so you just take those precautions. So if I was in the center in the middle of the day going to a place I knew, I might call a taxi off the street and be fine. If it was Erin by herself at night, she would not do that kind of thing. So you just take those wise precautions. We never had any issues with crime. Police. So there's a lot of police. Generally, the feeling is that they don't actually do anything. So they're just kind of around. You sometimes see police just standing at intersections, and they'll just be like blowing their whistle as if they were directing traffic, but like no one's actually listening to them or paying attention. So there's just a policeman standing on the side of the road, just like blowing their whistle repeatedly for no purpose. So that was kind of funny. If you get in an accident, if someone hits you with their car, for example, both parties have to pay in order to get the help of the police. So if you get in an accident, you almost never actually call the police. You just kind of work it out, handshake deal with the people with you. So it's not like the U.S., but there are police. I will also say that tourism is a big part of the Peruvian economy, so they really, I'm not saying this is good, this is just kind of how it is. They really protect American tourists, so there's a part of the police force that is the tourism police, like that is actually their name, and their job is to make sure that tourists are generally kept safe and things like that. So again, like we felt very safe, but it wasn't like the U.S. It was different, and yeah. Anyway.
Was there like a children's services
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called like Ministry of the. It sounds bad translated literally, but Women in Vulnerable Populations. So they take care of things like child abuse, if there's domestic abuse, those kind of things. It's a big bureaucracy. They're trying to do what's best with the kids. So I get that. It can be frustrating. Adoptions tend to take a very long time because there's just so much red tape to go through. And if a family member doesn't want, this happens unfortunately, where a family member doesn't have the resources to take a kid in, but they don't want the kid to go in adoption because they won't see them again, so they can hold up the adoption process. So like we have a girl who's 4 years old now who came to New Hope when she was 6 months, and she was supposed to be adopted over 2 years ago. If you read the old annual reports from New Hope, it says that she was supposed to be adopted, and there's just been a family member that's just held it up, so she's just stuck at the children's home. So I say that there's some negative things, but also, I mean, they're trying to take care of the kids. They're trying to make sure that they don't go with a bad character. But yeah, there is a ministry, and New Hope is independently funded. It's funded pretty much all from donations from the U.S., and then some physical goods in Peru are donated. So they're not directly under the government, but they have to work with the government and stuff. And so things like if a kid wants to go in adoption, New Hope can't just put a child in adoption. They have to work through the government to be able to get the kid adopted. Joe?
How is it chugging up 19,000 foot now? I've done some 14ers, but 19?
Yeah. I was in pretty good shape. So fitness-wise, it was okay. It's not technical at all. There's definitely more technical 14ers here. You do have to get a guide just for directing you. The paths aren't as well marked as like most 14ers here. Different people do differently at altitude. My limit was like 5,500 meters, which is like 17,000 feet or something like that. So I found once I went above that, I just really felt nauseous and not good. So Chichani and Misty were the two higher volcanoes, and I felt pretty crummy climbing those, to be honest. Made it to the top. Pichu Picchu was right around that 5,500 meter mark, so I felt great at the top. So different people do differently. Nicole, the pastor's wife, just doesn't have any problem with altitude. She's just like happy as can be at the top. Anyway, it was fun though. It was a good experience. Callie Jean? Yeah, I did. I think I did. I did. Yeah, it is so much better in so many ways. But I also know the U.S. system. The same with dates too. It would be the day, month, year rather than month, day, year. Which I'm like this just makes sense. But also this is not how I've done it, and I don't like it. So yeah, metrics. Fahrenheit, Celsius would be another one. So you just kind of we just like kind of knew like basic ones and can convert it, and then otherwise we would just look things up. So you'd have to be like, we would be telling people about how cold it is in Minnesota or something, because they don't really have, they have seasons, but highs are in the 70s every month of the year, so they don't really have cold like we do. So it'd be like, guess how cold it is in Minnesota? Quick Google, what is -10 in Celsius? Oh, it's this. And whoa, wow. So we had our phones. We had our phones at least. Yes, she has dual citizenship, Peruvian and U.S. Yeah. Janet? Mm. I don't know if they have Catholic charities. It is predominantly Catholic in Peru. Arequipa, it's something like 80%. It's higher in the country. Um, Arequipa is considered like, it's considered like a very educated city, so it has a higher proportion of like agnostic atheists. Unfortunately, those go hand in hand, which is really sad. But um, yeah, they do partner with some other agencies, not specifically any Catholic ones that I know. My guess is just Catholics in Peru don't really have to work with other people because there's so many of them. Uh, but yeah, they work with other partners, especially in those other regions of Arequipa. They just kind of have to work with local partners and then work a lot with the churches. Churches still have a lot of authority in Peru, in contrast to here, where kind of trust in churches has gone down, and pastor is no longer a very respected profession. In Peru, a pastor still kind of commands that respect and has that authority. So mostly with churches, some with the government, a little bit with a couple. They'll partner with some other children's homes too. So like the food donations that they get, they'll share those with a couple other children's homes based on their agreement with the place that donates. So yeah, some partnership with other organizations. I think. No. Well, and in Peru, uh, there's, yeah, pretty poor relationships between the Catholic and evangelical, especially a lot of the Baptist churches. So it's been a predominantly Catholic country for centuries. It still is. But a lot of missionaries, especially Baptist missionaries, came down in the 80s, so about 40 years ago. Like the missionaries who planted Vida Nueva came down in the 80s. The Boloses who started New Hope came down in the 80s, early 90s, sorry. But kind of that like 80, 90s era, and the Catholic Church did not receive them well. So we've heard stories from the pastor who planted Vida Nueva of like people calling the police on them to try to get them removed from Arequipa, just to kind of intimidate. Catholics would come and throw rocks at the building with the tin roof to interrupt the service so that you couldn't hear the pastor preaching. So there's a lot more antagonism. Yeah, and like I'm very convinced of Protestant theology. I think that Catholics should become Protestants. But had spent most of his time in a province in northern Peru and was a Peruvian citizen. And some people were like really excited that it was like a Peruvian pope. And some people even at New Hope were pretty excited. And then other people were very much like, oh, that's like kind of like the Luther stream of like the Pope is the Antichrist, and like why should I care about he's just doing the devil's work, so I don't care that he's from Peru, or some of that more antagonism. So I would say that would make it harder to work with Catholic groups if they were even interested.
I'm going to stop us because it's 11:30 or so, and I want to just take a second. A couple of interesting things is Kezia, is that the right pronunciation?
Kezia is how we pronounce it.
Kezia, she can run for office in Peru down the road, right?
Her approval rating is pretty high.
Yeah.
Her approval rating is higher than 2 to 3%.
And I
Yes.
just wondered if you were considerate enough to bring some of those Peruvian treats with you here.
I don't have any this morning. Sorry.
We'll remember that at the council. Typically, when we have, I know they left the mission field, but typically when we have missionaries come through and they're moving into, segue into another stage of life and ministry, we have a mission team to pray over them. So, Andy, come up, and Chris, come over here in the middle. We'll pray and then let you guys scoot. So, Chris, why don't you begin and I'll wrap up.
Yes, Father, we pray for Corey and for Aaron and their work in Peru. Father, we pray that the Peruvian people would respond and come to faith in Jesus. Amen.
Yeah, I ask we speak of blessings, that's why I ask for the richness of your blessing in Christ Jesus upon Corey and his family as they segue into a new phase of life and ministry. Open up an opportunity for them where they will fit well and thrive for your glory, and that their work in Peru will have a lasting effect on the children they minister to. Keep them from evil, provide abundantly for them, give them great health and strength in the Lord. And bless Corey as he goes through the ordination council tomorrow. Give him a nice quiet heart and clear mind, and let it be a very positive time for everyone. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Thanks for sticking around. You're dismissed.